What is up, everybody? My name is Nick. Welcome back for another news video. In this one, we're going to be talking about, well, the fact that the Idol Star Athletic Championships is right around the corner, or it's coming up very, very soon, and it is time for the annual criticism of the entire event. And people, of course, are talking about the same things that they talk about every year, and that is the fact that idols get injured all the time. And then, of course, they don't get properly treated when they do get injured. And this year, I've seen that people are saying we should boycott the show. We should not watch it. We should not follow it. We should not attend. We should just turn our backs and ignore it. And also, of course, calling for NBC to kind of make some changes and some adjustments to how things are run over there. And I really don't disagree with all of this. In principle, it's a really, really good thing that, you know, if you don't like something, if you don't like the way things are run, you don't like the way something is done, then you say, I'm not going to support that thing, and I'm going to try and put pressure on you to, you know, change and adjust what you're doing to meet my demands, to meet my wishes by, of course, not supporting the thing that you want. But the thing is, though, that ultimately everyone, you know, the annual complaining and the annual criticism and the annual, you know, petitioning and demanding and, you know, pointing out that, hey, this whole event is, you know, could be better, you know, in many aspects. You know, the Idol Star Athletic Championships could be a much better, you know, event in many ways, but this is really the main way that a lot of people have issue with. You know, it's definitely fair to criticize the event for the fact that idols get injured pretty frequently, but at the same time, it isn't really going to change anything unless people actually take some meaningful action with it. You know, and then, of course, all of that being said, with everyone kind of pointing the finger directly at the TV network, at NBC for it, they're not really the only party that is responsible for this in some way. Like, every single person who interacts with this whole event is in some way, they kind of play a role in perpetuating this event and perpetuating the environment and, you know, making sure that this continues to happen. So, you know, beyond the fact that it's the TV network that produces the show and all that stuff, that is also ultimately, or is, you know, the very obvious person to place blame on for the fact that, you know, idols get relatively seriously injured, you know, as they compete in different events in the show. We got to kind of take a look at some other groups of people who are actually, you know, partly responsible for this as well. And we're going to start with kind of calling out the fans that watch this show, that attend the event in person, who just in general tune in to follow this and see whatever is happening. You know, if the fans didn't care, there wouldn't be this show. This wouldn't happen. People, you know, kind of call for it to be canceled and, you know, for it to never happen again all the time. And yet it's one of the most highly, you know, rated events of TV events of the year when it comes to like K-pop entertainment or K-pop variety. So, you know, for fans to say like, oh my God, this must be banned and canceled off TV. I just can't believe it. It's so horrible. And then they still watch it anyway, or they seemingly still watch it anyway. You know, it's not going to change, because you can't say, like, you can't criticize something and then hope that it changes and then also consume it at the same time. So for this year, the you know, kind of the encouragement to boycott that I've seen is a very, very good idea. It's something that I definitely would support. You know, if you want this to change, then you kind of have to show that, you know, you're not going to support the thing in the way that it is currently. So, you know, the entertainment industry primarily exists to fill the demands of the consumer. Every business on the planet, you know, if you live in a capitalist country, you can't live in a, you know, capitalist economic, you know, economy, you know, it's all there to meet the demands of the consumers, and the K-pop consumers demand and they do want the Idol Star Athletic Championships to continue as they are. And, you know, they don't care enough about, you know, idols getting injured or anything else that happens during the show that nobody likes to not tune in, to not attend. It just is a thing that people really, really like. And so, you know, they kind of have to have the awareness to say, like, I don't like that, I'm not going to watch it, and then they won't, and then, you know, it won't happen anymore. And this kind of applies, you know, the fans' self-awareness of what they support, while they also simultaneously call it out as something that they don't like, is something that happens all the time in K-pop. Like, you know, you see fans that complain about how much idols work, and yet they demand that they release more music. What gives? It's two completely opposite things right there. Now, I know that for the most part, those are two separate groups of people who are making who want those two separate, you know, things. But, you know, it ultimately does come from the same fan base to a certain extent. The second thing is the entertainment companies also do play a role in this as well, because they are the ones that kind of have the control over the idols. They are the ones who send the idols to compete. They are the ones who allow them to go. They are the ones that encourage them. They are the ones that place them on this show, in this event, to actually compete. Now, I know that the whole relationship between entertainment companies and TV networks is a little shady and all that. So there's a little bit of like, you know, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours at some point. You know, there's a lot of favors that go on, you know, behind the scenes when it comes to, you know, the dealings between companies and TV shows. So I understand that it's not, maybe potentially not necessarily completely in the entertainment companies, you know, hands, like it's out of their hands on who and when they send people to perform in this, because, you know, maybe producers at NBC are calling up favors for, you know, SM Entertainment to like say like, hey, you're gonna get some XO guys over here to compete, because, you know, the one time that we did that other thing for you, you know, a couple months ago, now we're calling it in our favor. You know, I understand that, but, you know, if entertainment companies don't say no, don't say like, oh, you know what, no, you know, the futsal competition in the past has proven to like be a pretty regular event that produces some pretty regular injuries to idols, and we're not going to send our guys or girls to compete in the futsal. They can do something else, but they're not going to do futsal because that's dangerous. You know, then nothing will change in that regard either. So if the entertainment companies don't take steps to also protect their idols, protect their assets, because ultimately that's the idols and their, you know, them having, you know, able use of their bodies because they're not injured, that is what makes money for these companies. So if the companies don't protect their assets, you know, as inhumane as that sounds, then they're also going to lose out. But going back to my point where the fans won't stop watching the show, and so, you know, their boycott is the thing that speaks louder than anything else. Entertainment industry is driven off of demand, and so if the fans demand that members of EXO compete in the Idol Star Athletic Championships, then SM Entertainment are going to take the risk, because the payoff outweighs the risk to a certain extent. And that applies for any other company that, you know, sends people to participate in this. Like the risk to damage for the company and, you know, their own monetary benefits definitely, you know, kind of does not outweigh the actual benefit that they get from participating. So unless that kind of tips somewhere in their perception, then they're not likely to kind of take steps to protect people, to protect their idols from participating. And they probably should, to be completely honest, you know, kind of put a little bit more thought into that. And then the third thing, which is potentially a little the third group, which is potentially a little bit unfair to kind of include in this as people who are, as a group of people who are responsible for, you know, what goes on here, is that it are the idols themselves. And again, similar to, you know, how sometimes the companies aren't completely in control of what they do because, you know, of the shady backroom deals, I should say, that go on between the TV networks and the entertainment companies. Idols don't necessarily have the most control over what they do either. You know, it's just the nature of the K-pop industry at this point in time that, you know, the company kind of micromanages everything that you can do, and like you don't necessarily have a say in some of the things that you do and do participate in and what you do not participate in. You know, and it just is what it is in many instances. But idols are, you know, ultimately kind of responsible for taking care of their bodies. And so if you are required to participate in futsal, then maybe you shouldn't go for the diving save to stop a goal. Just let them score. It's going to be fine. You know, the worst thing that's going to happen is score a goal, you lose the game. The best thing, I guess, that's going to happen is that the other team scores a goal and you lose the game. The worst thing that's going to happen is you get injured. You like tear a ligament, you do something to your shoulder, you break your foot, you do something, you're hurt, you're injured, now you're out for a little while, and then ultimately, you know, your injuries kind of take a toll on your body, especially for something that is so physically intensive. So, you know, just like an idol would, I would presume, kind of follow a pretty strict diet to make sure that they can, stay in shape and fit, and they exercise and they take care of their bodies like that too. And it's also, to a certain extent, their responsibility to kind of take care of their body, even when they're kind of, competing in a physical competition. And, if they're forced, and not only, am I suggesting like to potentially not play as hard when they're competing, but also too, like, they're not actual literal slaves, so they can say like, excuse me, I don't think that this is very safe. I don't want to participate in futsal. I might get injured. And, the past history on this show kind of shows that people break their legs and stuff like that, and I don't really want to I don't want to take that risk. Then they should do that too, because if you don't actually kind of provide some resistance to the status quo, then the status quo doesn't change. And you will continue to get forced to participate in Idol Star Athletic Championships even if you don't want to, and idols will still get forced to participate in a bunch of other things that they don't necessarily want to participate in, if they don't actually say, like, if they don't suggest and they don't say like, no, I don't really want to, or they don't say like, I will do it, but I don't want to, or anything like that. So, I mean, it isn't really entirely on MBC, to kind of, the blame doesn't entirely fall on them, because after, you got to kind of take into consideration too, that the Idol Star Athletic Championships are events of basically physical prowess in different sporting in different sporting events. And when you physically exert yourself, just like when you're dancing on stage, you're putting yourself in a position that you're going to hurt yourself much more than if you were just walking down the street. Unless you're walking down the street and then the street's icy, then it's a very dangerous situation. You probably shouldn't be doing that. But you're doing the 50 meter dash, or the futsal, or whatever other competition that they have in there. You're putting yourself in that situation. You're putting yourself in the situation to get in. You're giving yourself the opportunity to get injured. As unfortunate as that would be, you just kind of have to take that into consideration. So of course, things that could be changed and probably should be changed is like potentially drop the more intense events in favor of potentially doing things that are not as physically demanding on people. Like futsal probably should go, because it just is a little too much for the event, and negatively impacts people that actually do get injured. Like, as fun as it could be, it does have a negative impact for the people that actually get injured as they compete. So you do that. Of course, another big criticism has been the lack of adequate medical attention that idols have received when they actually did get injured, and of course that should get changed as well. But like I just mentioned, ultimately, when it comes down to it and you're participating, you kind of have to realize that you're playing a sport. It's a physical activity. You're exerting yourself. You're pushing your body to limits that you either are aware of or you don't know. And, you're running the risk that something will actually break because you cross the line with what your body can take. And, idols do that when they dance. During their dance practices, sometimes they get injured. When they're on stage, sometimes they get injured. It just is a natural thing that happens when you physically exert yourself. So both fans, something that I think that fans should actually kind of take into consideration with that this is something that just naturally happens, to a certain extent. As frequently as it does, I have no idea. That's not for me to say. But it just is what it is to a certain extent. But of course, there's a bunch of other steps and a bunch of decisions that a bunch of other groups of people, like I just talked about, can do to kind of make sure that stuff like this doesn't happen anymore. At the very least, that this show doesn't happen, or that there are big time changes that happen to this show. So that's all that I got to say on this topic. Rather long, rather long little news video here, but rather lengthy sort of explanation or topic to talk about, I kind of think. So I am interested in hearing what you guys have got to say about everything that I laid down, and of course just your general thoughts and opinions on the Idol Star Athletic Championships. I personally, don't have any interest now, since Foreman's not there to dominate archery, so I'm not necessarily following it, but I've always thought it was kind of a fun thing to do, because you don't really get to see the idols compete against each other in this kind of setting. So it's kind of a fun event. But if everyone's getting injured, then maybe something should be changed to make something a little bit better. So I want to know what you guys think. put your thoughts down in the comments below. No matter what they are, do not be afraid to share them. This community that I'm trying to build here is all about having some free and open discussion about our thoughts and opinions, no matter what they are. So if that is a community that you guys are interested in becoming a part of, then please do consider clicking on the subscribe button down below. So that is going to be it for this video. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you all next time.